Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Yogis That Inspire. Today I have my dear friend Ella Trotter. So I'm stoked to have her. She was started her yoga journey in New Zealand, then felt a calling to India, where she went to India and studied at the Upaya school. That was her first yoga teacher training. Then from the Upaya school, she's continued to stay on and help with the running of the school. And Ella also started a therapeutic yoga teacher training, which she then became a teacher at that training at the Kaya Yoga School. So that's how I met Ella. And now Ella has finally settled in Bali, where she runs yoga teacher trainings and retreats as well with her own yoga school. So Ella is also a Reiki healer and which helps bring balance to the energy centers in the body. And I'm really stoked to have Ella on. So Ella, can you please send an invite to be on the live, and then we can have you on here. So I hope, just waiting for Ella to send an invitation. Maybe if I can add. Perfect. So I've just added Ella. Hi!
Hi, here I am.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh,
It's a
we're getting
pleasure.
some filters going on. Look at this. How about
It's
glittery?
the
Oh, this
magic.
is
It's
nice.
the magic of our glowing.
Yes, the yogic glow.
You don't need the filter, girl. You're already glowing.
Ah, thank you.
So we'll get started right in, Ella.
Perfect.
But please tell us, you started yoga at 16, I believe, and how has your mindset towards yoga changed from 16 to where you are today?
Yeah, wow, that seems like a lifetime ago. I'm now 33, so it was definitely many decades ago. But I think, like many, my yoga practice journey started through the physical nature of wanting to move my body. Plus, I was good at it, so there was a little bit of that competitive element of like, oh, I can do this. I'm flexible. It feels good. And nowadays, I would say it's so much less about how I move my body, but how I can sort of authentically move gracefully throughout my life. So it's kind of changed from like a physical practice into a holistic and spiritual approach to life.
So it's a lifestyle. It's integrated from the mat, off the mat, into other areas in your life.
Absolutely.
And I know you've went and practiced different styles of yoga. But which style would you say resonates more with you the most, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been through so many different styles. I practiced hot yoga for a few years. I practiced Bikram yoga, which is like a very kind of strict set of the same postures. It never changes. I practiced in 40-degree Celsius heated rooms, and my first training in India was in Hatha yoga, which is a more traditional lineage, and Ashtanga Vinyasa, which again is a very strong physical practice based on sort of how the body should look. And I think there was a big shift through my therapeutic yoga teacher training in a more mindful movement direction. So it went from less about how the posture looks to how it should feel. What are the benefits that I want to receive in my body? And and that became most important. So it was more about mindfully moving my body than trying to get it into a particular structure or shape based on what a textbook would tell me it looks like.
That's interesting because it ties into like the pleasure principle, which is infusing pleasure into your body through movements. something I just discovered 2 days ago, actually.
Wow, yeah. Like I always encourage my students to say, like, okay, your practice is for you. You're not going to look like me. You're not going to look like the person next to you, but how does it feel? What benefits do you want to receive? Do you want to calm your body? Do you want to energize your body? Focus on that. There's really no right or wrong as long as you're receiving the benefits that you intended to receive.
And what's the best advice you would suggest to a new yoga student that flows? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Never done yoga before, never been to a class. What would you suggest?
I would say remove all ideas that you have to be in a certain physical condition or a certain place in your life to be able to start. The best time to start is in the present moment. And you don't need to have a 2 hour practice at 4 a.m. It doesn't have to be super intense, but there's really simple ways that you can integrate a yogic lifestyle into your daily schedule without it being completely overwhelming and daunting, because a lot of people have this preconception that I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible or I don't have X, Y, and Z. But really, just starting small and simple. It could be writing a gratitude diary every morning. It could be 5 minutes of mindful movement, just waking up your body. It could be yawning and stretching. Like, who doesn't love to wake up that way? Yeah, you know. So it's like, it doesn't have to be this like overwhelming, daunting, massive part of your life that's gonna, take up so much time. It could just be becoming aware of your breath, looking around and noticing in the present moment what is bringing you enjoyment. And that could be your yoga practice. So that's, just start small.
I love that. Like, it doesn't have to be take you somewhere or be a huge shift. Just being where you are and bowing to that inner guidance. I love that, and awareness.
Yeah. Start
Um,
small and stay consistent.
yeah. And what is the greatest impact yoga has had in your life?
Mm. So I remember one of the biggest lessons that I had was when I arrived to India for my first yoga teacher training, and I was a mess. I had just come out of a breakup, like literally before hopping on the aeroplane, and I arrived to India.
Bye.
Not exactly, but yeah, kind of. And
I'm leaving.
I cried every day for a week. I was a total mess, and my teacher would just tell me to lie down, and he would just put his hand on my head, and he would say, just breathe,"
How
and
would
I
he
would
put
do that.
his hand on your ear?
It would just be like on here. I'd be like lying flat, and he'd just like put his head there just to like feel that support. Maybe there was some energy, and it felt very nice, and I was just focusing on the breath through the right side of my body. So if I focused on my heart, I would start to feel this intensity of emotion. So I kind of wanted to move away from that and just focus on breathing, but on the side of my body not near my heart. And after say 15 minutes, he would say, "And how do you feel now?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit better." He's like, "Okay, breathe, keep breathing, another 15 minutes." And I would just breathe. And but also in that process, so every practice, every meditation, we would set intentions. And previously, I was the kind of person that would want to have like a new intention every day so I could like maximize these positive affirmations and, get the most out of all of them. And in
Wings
this
life.
moment, yeah, exactly. And in this moment, I just knew that I had to have one intention and I had to stick with it. And that intention was to be at peace with every emotion. So, on that process throughout the next few weeks of my teacher training, I was just reciting this over and over again. And it allowed me to experience sadness. It allowed me to experience anger. It allowed me to experience loneliness. And rather than pushing these like negatively perceived emotions away, I was able to find peace with them. And when
Mm.
I found peace with, the polarities of our emotions, and being able to rise out of those and then come into, more happiness and joy, and know that they were such temporary things.
Mm.
I sort of like balanced and regulated my emotions. And I think through that experience, I've learned to, to not like react so much, and to not like allow my emotions to control me, but just to sit with whatever is present. We have this sort of tendency to, attach ourselves to pleasure, and we have this aversion to pain.
Yes.
And yeah, but really, this attachment to pleasure and aversion to pain is essentially the cause of our suffering. So when we can come to this like sort of middle ground and be like the observer from a distance, we're like, okay, I'm experiencing anger. Like, how is this moving through my body? Okay, now it's a few minutes have gone by and it's passed. So just to understand the temporary nature of our emotions through that experience, through sitting with and finding peace with every emotion, I think that's one of the biggest shifts I've noticed, from being this quite sort of emotionally reactive person to a more sort of like calm and centered person that can observe without letting it change my inner state of being, my inner calmness.
Do you think that the consistent practice, like it's still something you have to continue to practice and be disciplined in maintaining that homeostasis within? Or do you think,
Absolutely. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still get like those like, oh my God, what? And then it's like, oh, okay, that was interesting. But it's like, being compassionate to yourself, understanding that we do experience all these emotions, and trying to bridge or shorten that gap between reaction and response. We don't want to be reactive beings where our external circumstances impact our inner world, but we want to be able to have this calmness and clarity where we can respond from that state. So that's a really important place to be, to respond from calmness, because when we are emotionally unstable, our brain actually stops functioning like to its optimal level. Our brain slows down, and we don't have the capacity and awareness to be calm, to think clearly, and respond with grace, with love, with compassion. And that's when we get angry and we take it out on people around us.
yeah, I'm sure we've all experienced that.
So yeah, it's a constant journey. It never ends.
Okay, that's
Probably
good to
even
know.
there's going to be many more lifetimes of this journey as well.
Okay. And what would you say is the best resource that you've come across that's helped you develop your yogic lifestyle?
Hmm. Well, I think it's doing a yoga teacher training, and I would say that the best resource that anyone else could do would be to do my yoga teacher training. So, a studio practice, or like when you're introducing yourself to yoga, it's there's not enough time to go
Mm.
through all of the philosophies, to go through everything correctly and safely. So like a yoga teacher training is really the first step, and the first person that you need to teach is yourself. So this is like, it creates a safe bubble where you can explore the anatomy, physiology, the history, the alignment, the philosophies, the essentially the lifestyle of the yogi. And yeah, I don't think that people should be turned off by the fact that, oh, maybe I don't want to teach, I'm not ready to teach, I don't have anything to teach. You first need to learn that for yourself and then integrate it into your life. And then when it translates into, teachings or wisdom, that's when you take this knowledge that you've learnt and add your experiences. And that's what becomes, the best teaching, when knowledge transmutes into wisdom through experience. And the best way to experience, a full, all-encompassing idea of yoga from the start is probably a 200 hours yoga teacher training.
I completely agree. Because it gives you a holistic approach to yoga than just the asana.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so much more. Like, we learn in our Sutra studies and our teacher training, that, yoga, the asana practice or the movements is like 1%. And really it's about preparing the body for stillness, to remove all of this chitter chatter in our mind, as I was saying about, not jumping to pleasure or pushing away pain. It's really, yeah, the philosophies of yoga are amazing.
Just a random question, but like, what is the sutra that one of the sutras that you love to continually draw back to mentally?
There's one about pondering the opposites. I don't know it completely. I can't recite it off by heart, but it's about, yeah, pondering the opposites of things. So it's like, if you want to bring, or you ponder like friendliness, and it's yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'll look
The
it up, but
polarity. Okay.
exactly. It's about polarity. So it's like understanding that sadness and happiness come, hand in hand.
Yes, it's like okay, I understand. That's a good one.
And
Um,
it's, yeah, and like cultivating friendliness and compassion towards people that might be bitter and spiteful. So if someone is showing you this negative aspect, you will sort of act upon the opposite of it, not get sucked into, oh, they're being spiteful. You can have compassion for them in that state, and ponder, how would the opposite affect them.
and doing so without attachment or judging them. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important as well.
And speaking of like the yoga philosophies, like which yama and niyama resonates most to you in this moment in your life, and why?
Yeah, so for those who aren't fully on the yogic path, the yamas and the niyamas are our social and ethical. I'd say they're kind of like they're our rules or our guidelines, our codes for how to live the most yogic life. And so there's a few of them, like 10. And while I would say that all of them are relevant and applicable, one that keeps on coming up for me is santosha, which is contentment. So for me, I use this as kind of like a check-in. Like if I'm starting to feel like, oh, why aren't I going here in my life, or why don't I have this in my life? It's sort of like taking me out of the present moment, and I'm in the scarcity mentality. I'm thinking of like lack, of like, I want this, but I don't have it now. How can I get that? I mean, it's
Mm.
great to have healthy goals and aspirations of what we want to achieve into our lives, but if we can't strip back all of those layers and be happy with what we do have in the present moment, again, it's going to lead to suffering, because we're
Mm.
always going to be sort of, projecting ourselves into the future of, why don't I have this now, and creating that sort of like that tension. So yeah, santosha, contentment, I think that's one that's a constant journey, and a simple way to come back to gratitude, to remind ourselves that we are, we're living this divine experience. And I believe wholeheartedly in divine timing, and every lesson, whether it's perceived as negative or positive, is coming to us for a reason. And when we're open to experience that reason and learn that lesson, then we can sort of transmute it. It's kind of like this karma cycle, you know. It'll keep repeating itself until we learn what needs to be learned.
Like,
Yeah, I always want this and I'm never getting this. And it's like, okay, as soon as you can be happy and content with what you do have, then it's like, okay. Doesn't mean we can't want more in our lives and can't be like, oh wow, I'm working towards this amazing goal and these are my steps to get there. That's amazing. That's great. But still, plan for the future in the present moment and then come back to the present moment.
oh, I like
Enjoy.
that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Be in the present and plan, and then come back to the present and enjoy.
And enjoy. For sure.
And what is your opinion on the Yama brahmacharya? And if you could briefly explain that to the viewers.
Yeah, so there's a few translations of brahmacharya. So one would mean abstinence. But how I like to see it, it's about preservation of energy. So a lot of people might see it as sexual energy, but if we look at sexual energy, it is essentially creation. It is life force, and it is a powerful energy, and we use this energy throughout our day, and we don't want to deplete it. So how I bring brahmacharya into a daily understanding is by looking at the areas of my life where I might be leaking energy. So maybe it's too much gossiping with girlfriends and then feeling quite exhausted afterwards. Maybe it's going out too late at night and then not being able to wake up and have a nice morning practice. So it's understanding what keeps our energy on a stable level. And it could be being promiscuous and, you know, giving your sexual energy to too many people. For sure, it's you know, it needs time to recharge. But more, it's about how we maintain our energy levels throughout our daily lives. And on the mat as well, if you're going to be pushing yourself, you know, jumping back, jumping forward, doing a very strenuous practice, then when your body starts to feel depleted, you're more at risk of injuring yourself. You're more at harm. But if you're doing 108 sun salutations, you don't want to start off so strong and then burn out. You want to understand, okay, this is a marathon and not a sprint, and I want to get to the end. So, you know, if I'm climbing Mount Everest, I'm not gonna start running up it, right? It's gonna be one step at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Okay.
So yeah.
I love that, and applying that to your daily life and thinking what are the energy drains or energy leaks and how you can conserve that to use purposefully.
Yeah, exactly. It might be, oh gosh, I'm always breathing very short and shallow, and essentially that is life force. So if I can make my breaths fuller and deeper, I'm going to feel calmer, I'm going to feel more stable, I'm going to feel more grounded, I'm going to be balanced as I move throughout my day. Maybe just checking in, bringing the hands to the belly and doing full deep inhale for a few minutes, and all of a sudden, wow, okay, I'm calm, I'm more centered. I can go back to my work. I can, you know, have that meeting.
That is especially now when we're wearing masks and it's so difficult in London here, we have to wear masks indoors or on the tube. And that is such a great little tip for people, just with brahmacharya, bring that practice of conserving the energy through the breath.
Yeah, for sure. Most of us don't even realize like how many breaths we might have per minute. And I was, so we had our Zaz Yoga Festival recently, and I was part of, I joined one of the breathwork workshops. And like I've been breathing full deep breaths for many years now, and it's I would say breathing is one of my hobbies, actually. You know, I know we need to breathe to live, but I enjoy to breathe. And yeah, and so I
What's your
did
favorite
the
hobby?
this
Breathing.
yeah, breathing, sleeping,
Breathing.
eating, enjoying life. But yeah, so we did this test, and we were counting how many breaths we had per minute, and so the teacher asked, and so some of the people said, okay, there was like 15 breaths in a minute, and mine was six. So
Oh,
when
wow.
someone else had 15 breaths in a minute, I was breathing 6 breaths per minute. And the practice for the end of the session, we were all trying to actually get down to six. So I kind of was already in this very calm, rest and digest, parasympathetic nervous system state where I was very calm. And at that state, we can function optimally. So when we're in this, what is called fight or flight mode, we are essentially ready to face any perceived threat, whether it exists or doesn't exist. So you might liken that to, like, if you're being chased by a bear, you need to be very reactive, but all
Yeah.
of your attention goes to managing this imminent threat. And in that state, the breath becomes short or shallow because you need to be fast and very reactive. And in that state, so our essential organs, like our organs start to slow down or stop. So we might, in that state, we don't need to be digesting food. We don't need to be breathing full deep breaths. But if we're in that state for an extended period of time, that's when other forms of dis-ease can come. So by
Interesting.
just breathing full deep breaths, we go into this rest and digest state where our digestion is working optimally. We're feeling more energized. We have vitality, and
That's
it's
interesting.
all through the breath.
I love that. I love that. And just while you were saying that, reminded me to deep breathe. And I don't, this is just a personal question, but do you find like wearing a bra restricts your breathing?
A bra. Oh, I don't really wear bras.
I
I wear
feel
like
wearing a
I wear
bra.
yoga tops. Yeah,
Yeah.
free the nipple.
Yeah. Free the chest.
Yeah. I
The
mean,
a
tight
part of my
dresses, all of these, the
yeah.
corset. Imagine like in those, colonial times when they're like really tight. They can't even eat. They're trying to constrict all of their body. But yeah,
So you
I
don't
think
wear
it's
a
so
bra.
important.
Okay, that's good to know
Not
because
really. I don't think I own a bra with underwire actually.
wow.
But
Okay.
I'm a very vocal breather, and it could be like at a restaurant enjoying a meal, and I'll just let out this big like and I won't even realize how loud it is, and everyone's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, I enjoy to breathe. I'm sorry."
My
But
hobby
it's
that
almost
happens 24/7.
it's like an invitation to do the same. I'm always like, let's breathe. Let's breathe deep and loud and full. And yeah, once you start it, it becomes an addiction, a really healthy addiction.
I want to have that addiction to
All
breathing
right.
properly.
Oh, goodness.
And what is your morning and nighttime routine look like?
Yeah, so my morning routine it's quite fluid. I'm not such a strict yogi that I have to wake up at a specific time and do a specific set of practices. At the moment, I wake up sort of just before the sunrise, and where I'm staying, outside my door of my bedroom, there's like a rice field, and then the sun comes up behind the rice field, and it comes up at about 6:29 every morning at the moment. And so I make a cup of cacao, 100% like ceremonial grade cacao, not hot chocolate. and I've been really in yeah, no, it's not hot chocolate. It's cacao. It opens your heart. And I love playing mantra. So really powerful songs that just fill me with joy. So it's like all about devotion, and I'll play some mantra, and I'll just spend a little bit of time, sitting in stillness, contemplating contentment and gratitude, watching the sunrise. And yeah, it might just be a few minutes, it might be longer sometimes, it might lead me into a longer meditation. But I feel like the way that we start the day is such an important part of how we continue that day on.
Yeah. Can
So
you
yeah.
tell us what's the difference between ceremonial grade cacao and how you prepare it versus hot chocolate? Like how does that?
Yeah. I think that hot chocolate has maybe it has milk powder and it has sugar and it has other ingredients. Ceremonial grade cacao is 100% cacao, and so we're so lucky in Bali because there is some like cacao plantation, and the ceremony really starts from when the seed is planted into the ground. And Bali is such a beautiful Hindu island where every every day it is blessed with prayer, with offerings. So this is so powerful, and this energy essentially it goes into the soil, and it has power. And so the ceremonial grade cacao, you can get it, all around the world, but the one that I have, it's very powerful. And so to keep this I guess tradition of the ceremony of preparing it,
Mm.
you can put intention in the cacao. If you talk lovingly to your food, it's going to feel more loving when it's in your body. There's been studies shown that if you have two pot plants, and if one pot plant you talk nasty to it, you tell it horrible things, you're really mean to it. And the other one, if you just shower it with love, with positive affirmations, with gratitude, it actually grows bigger. It looks more healthy. And the other one, it could even die. So,
Wow.
yeah, you can put
Okay.
this on intention on your morning breakfast, on your morning coffee, whatever it is. Like if you think that coffee is like this disgusting drink that's not good for you, of course, then it's going to start to have that energy when it goes into your body. But if you
Mm.
say, okay, like I love coffee, I'm going to keep drinking coffee. This coffee is energizing me for my day ahead. It's filling me up with the motivation I need. It's going
Yeah.
to have a far better, more positive impact on your body internally.
I love that. That you can be the alchemist of what you're constituting with your food, you can set intentions with that. I love that.
For sure. And being present when you're eating. So I have some friends, like I'll go have dinner with them, and we will all sort of like tune in and do a little a blessing on the food, appreciating where it's come from, the preparation that's gone into making it, the people that have been on that journey. And it kind of makes it special rather than, being on your phone, scrolling through Instagram, like putting the food in your mouth, not really tasting it, not really experiencing it.
And
Yeah.
that, oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that beautiful morning heart morning routine.
Of
And
course.
what does your nighttime routine look like?
Hmm. I'm not as strong on the nighttime routine. Oh, my earphone's falling out. Um, yeah, I've started doing this journal that my friend has created. It's called Pop Journal, and in the morning you talk about your affirmations, your goals, and then in the evening you reflect on them. So I think the morning is more about that creating intention, and then the evening becomes like, all right, so how was my day? Reflecting on it, what did I like about it? Was there something
Mm.
that I didn't get done that I wanted to get done? I like to snuggle with my dog, of course.
Very
And
important. Have it.
yeah, it's more of just a time of like calming down, preparing myself for a nice night's rest. And I try to go to bed at a reasonable time so that I can wake up for, the morning. If I'm like up till midnight, I'm not going to feel good the next day. That's guaranteed.
Mm,
I
mm.
need my 8 or 9 hours of sleep, and I know that for my body. I've learned that. And again, it's like that preservation of energy. If I'm leaking energy at the night, just filling my brain with, Netflix or movies that might be violent, I'm gonna probably have like nightmares and not feel so good. It's yeah,
Mm.
when you start to become more sensitive to the energies around you, these things do affect us, and we are all programmed on some level, and sort of becoming aware of that and not letting ourselves sort of go through life unconsciously.
Yes. And
But yeah.
um,
Oh, my dog.
hi, Bunny.
Lola, come and be on the IG live.
She probably heard that. Oh, cuddles with my dog, and it's like, yes, I'm coming. I want some cuddles.
Yeah, here she is. Oh,
Oh,
hey. Say hello,
Lola.
everyone.
Hi, Lola.
You're so pretty. Hi.
And now, do you follow a particular yogic diet? Um, and what is your opinion on eating or perspective on eating animal products?
Yeah, so when 10 years ago, I was the person having bacon and eggs for breakfast, chicken for lunch, salmon for dinner, not really
Same.
understanding. Yeah. And then I go to India and I see the beautiful piglets playing in the mud and start to realize like I can still have a healthy, nourishing, vitalized diet and body without needing to harm these beautiful creatures. So from that moment, I became vegetarian, and then recently, I always used to have this exception, like, oh, I'm going to have fish, every now and then, and then I watch Seaspiracy. So if you don't want to become vegan, don't watch Seaspiracy. But if you actually want to have a wake up call and a like of the reality, it was really powerful, and it kind of gave me that kick up the ass to kind of not be so blind, and realize that there isn't a need to actually harm any living being, and
Mm.
we can be very healthy. The one of the strongest men in the world is a vegan, and he's massive. So you don't need, your steak and your chicken fillet to build muscle mass. You can get it all from nature. We were intended to be herbivores. This is why our teeth are shaped the way they are. We don't need to, eat flesh. And yeah, I'm not one to say to someone else what they should and should not eat. It's totally a personal preference, and for me it is very ethical, and I feel good in my body with the diet that I have. I'm so blessed to live in Bali, where we just have an array of colors. We can literally eat the rainbow every day of the week, and nourish our bodies. And I feel lighter from it. If I remember back in the past when I was sort of transitioning, and then occasionally I would eat meat, I would feel very heavy. I'd feel very lethargic. My body would take a lot longer to digest the food, and it just didn't sit right with my digestive system. So, you know,
100%
maybe,
diet.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
maybe for some people that's very extreme and seems a little bit too hard to do. And I would say maybe just incorporating more vegan and vegetarian meals into your diet, maybe having a meat-free Monday, and slowly starting to see there is so many different meal options that don't require animal products. And I've
Okay.
also, my mum brought me up on without dairy products, because she never had
Wow.
dairy. So,
And that's
so
big
I
in New
remember,
Zealand because it's
I
one of the
know,
main
yeah.
producers of dairy
Yeah.
in the
Well,
world.
my mum was very lactose intolerant, so it would actually make her like very blocked up, very congested, very snotty. So she
Yeah.
kind of just brought us up on alternatives. So I don't have that taste for milk. It actually, once when I was young and had a babysitter, she didn't realize, and my dad drank animal milk, and my babysitter gave me a glass and I spat it out like all over her and the floor because it was just the taste was so ugh. So yeah.
Okay, great. Now, which individual would you say has been the most inspiring in your life and why?
No, I saw this question and it's such a sweet one, and without a doubt it would be my granny. And
Okay.
yeah, she is such an inspiring role model, and I've had a strong connection to her since I was born. I used to spend, my weekends with her. We would go to the beach, we would, play in the garden. She was always there for me growing up. And, in my more adult life, I learnt the stories of her life. And, in the 1950s, she was on a boat from New Zealand to the UK via Panama, and then she cycled across Europe. She lived in London for 2 years and then bought a motorbike and proceeded to motorcycle across Europe. And the motorbikes broke down and they hitchhiked. And so this was like in 1957 and 1958. And then she met my granddad on the way back to New Zealand and had 3 children. She went through a divorce in the 60s, which is quite a taboo thing because, women were told to just, stay in your marriage because you've got children. In her 70s, she was hiking in Nepal.
In her
And
70s.
in her 70s, yes. And at 75, the two of us actually ventured on a big overseas journey to Europe, and our first stop was Paris, and we stayed in a 6-bed female dorm, and I let her sleep on the bottom bunk, of course. But yeah, I like to say that I got my strength and adventurous spirit from her, and she's always someone that I look up to. And one day I will write a book on this.
Oh, that's amazing that you have someone so close to you, related that you look up to and has been a shining light and helped you and inspired you to live your life the way you are, which is adventurous, wild, free, you know,
Yeah.
exploring. Oh, and I know you've incorporated the lunar cycle into your yogic lifestyle and practice, and you also teach it and run um, lunar like retreats, I think. And can you tell us how the moon cycles relate to the yoga practice and how you use the lunar energy to propel yourself through life?
Yeah, so the moon is very powerful. I mean, we understand on a basic level that it affects the ocean and the tides. So it really controls water, and our body is 70% water approximately. So why wouldn't we feel the moon as it's waxing and waning and growing? So I have this lunar cycle yoga membership, and we have weekly classes, and we follow. So the new moon is when the moon is least visible and the night sky is the darkest. It's a very introspective time. So it's a time of being calm, and it might be a time of looking at what do I want to achieve in this lunar cycle. So you might start to write some intentions or set some goals. And then when the moon starts to grow, it's really this sort of like creative time. It's kind of like the spring of the lunar cycle. And everything is blossoming and we can feel very fluid and creative. So that's a nice time for some creative flows. And when it comes to the full moon, that's when the energy is the biggest. So the moon is the brightest, and we can feel it quite intensely when we are tuned to that. So, and it might be the time for a more calm practice because our sleeping patterns might be disrupted. We might be feeling very on edge. So it's also a time of like full energy. So that could be translated as like a time to manifest. All right, what are these goals that I set at the start of the month, and how are they coming into fruition? How are they becoming my reality now with this like full power energy? So that's one way where we can follow the cycle. And then as the moon gets smaller again, it could be this like reflection of like, okay, these are the intentions I set, and this is what happened, and what's next. We can connect it to astrology. So the moon might be at its fullest, but it might be under. So recently we had the Scorpio full moon. Yes. So, and we know that every astrology sign has an element. So Scorpio is connected to the water element. And then we have our fire signs, we have our air signs, and we have our earth signs. So it's a Scorpio full moon, and I'm feeling very fluid and connected to the water element. How do I want to honor that? So it might be doing something very fluid, or it might be like, wow, I'm feeling too fluid. I need to do the opposite. So it's a time to kind of tune in and be like, all right, what does my body need?
Yeah.
Do I need a fiery practice, or am I feeling too fiery? Do I need to feel grounded, or, do I need a little bit of uplifting? What does my body need? So yeah, that's I really love to use these in theming yoga classes, and people can, you might not relate to astrology or understand what these signs mean, but people understand too the idea of, okay, I'm feeling a little bit like lost in my head, I need to be grounded, or I'm feeling a little bit slow and sluggish, I need a little bit of fire to get me moving. So you can sort of like, you can get very like woo-woo spiritual, but it still comes back on a practical level of like, okay, I'm feeling a bit lost, I need to ground myself.
I love that. Like,
Or I'm
how you
feeling a bit stuck, I need this fluidity, I need to like push through, I need to have this ebb and flow of my life because I'm trying to structure it too much.
I love that. Like, yeah, and this is I'm reaping the benefits of the Scorpio moon today with you. That was my intention, earlier in the month, and boom, here.
Yes, here we are.
And I also love how authentic and vulnerable you are on the post that you share, and you write about what you've gone through and the emotions that you experience, especially about having an abortion and issues with your mom. And how would you say yoga has helped you through the hardships in your life?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I believe that our experiences create who we are, but we don't want to continuously live the past or attach ourselves to this victimhood, or like, this happened to me and I'm a victim of this experience. But really like, okay, this happened for me. How can I learn from this? How can I grow? How can I use this to serve myself, and in turn to empower myself and others around me? We can also relate that to our yoga practice. So when we move through something difficult on our yoga mat, maybe we lose our balance. How do we react in that situation? When we're feeling like giving up and we keep going, or we lose our balance and we get back up into the posture, how can that translate into our life? Maybe it was a posture that we have this negative story about, oh, I can't do that, I'll never be able to get to that posture. And then we try it and we might get there. So how can we take that off the mat into our lives? What are we sort of holding back on? What are we limiting ourselves in any way? And And like, if I thought I couldn't do this yoga pose and I did it, I think I can't do something else. But like, what if I could? What if I tried? What if I put myself out there? So there's so many ways of like how we deal with our practice, how we respond rather than react. We don't storm out of the yoga room and just be like, I give up, I'm never doing yoga again. No, we
After again.
yeah, like we pick ourselves up and we continue and we grow and we evolve and that's why it's a yoga practice, not a yoga perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect posture. It's just like there's no such thing as the perfect, you know, reality of our life. I mean, everything is beautiful, but it's almost like I'd say perfectly imperfect.
I love that. Not a
It,
yoga. It's not a yoga perfect. The yoga
yeah,
practice.
exactly. And
Um,
we'll never get to this like stage in the future. You'll never get to like your handstand if you don't start with these little baby steps. Okay, I'm going to strengthen my shoulders. All right, I'm going to practice with the wall. I'm going to do these little steps to build up my confidence, and then one day we do it and we're like, wow, that wasn't as hard as I thought. What else can I do? I'm gonna tell that boy that I like him, or I'm gonna quit my job, or I'm gonna become a yoga teacher, whatever it is.
do you say when you experience these hardships in your life that you still do you have like a daily asana practice um, that carries you through whatever stage, whatever you're experiencing? Are you disciplined in that aspect of daily asana practice?
I like to, I love inversions. So I love my shoulder stand, my headstand.
Your pincha.
I love,
I saw you do pincha the first time I met you. I was like, whoa, I want to
yeah.
do.
But yeah, I think if there's a go-to postures, it'll be inversions and a shoulder stand or a headstand. Um, yeah, I teach quite a lot of classes at the moment, and if I'm going to the studio, I will go early enough so that I can do a few postures for myself, so that when I'm teaching, it's about the students. It's not about me needing to get in my practice while I'm there, and then I can be more present with my students and what they are needing in the moment.
Okay, I love that. So you dedicate a bit of time to your own personal practice um, every
Yeah,
day.
and in terms of yeah, in terms
Yeah.
of asana, it's more like I might be sitting in stillness and that's my practice. It doesn't, I could get my movement walking on the beach. I can get it going to
Mhm.
the gym and you
Yeah.
can separate these things. It's like I don't need to practice yoga to to lose weight or to feel that physical element. It's so much deeper and so much more about that. Whereas, the 16-year-old me was like, yes, I need to do all these postures, I need to move, I need to sweat, I need to like get all this energy off. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm more calm, I'm just
Yeah.
just observing. In my mind, I'm practicing postures.
And the next one is an interesting one. I didn't know that, you were part of two spiritual tribes or cults in your life. And can you please give us like an insight on what it was like to be part of that and what you gained from that experience, from those experiences?
Yeah, sure. I think people get a little bit scared by the word cult. It has
Mm.
quite a few like negative connotations, but it
Yeah.
actually comes from the Latin word cultus, which means worship. And I think
Oh,
that's really beautiful. So, to like find a group of people that are worshiping something greater than themselves, it's powerful. And I'm so lucky that I got to have a little bit of a nomadic life for a few years, like traveling the world, experiencing cultures, learning different skills, radical honesty, non-duality, non-violent communication, ecstatic dance, all of these things that if I was living a more, conservative, traditional life, working 9 to 5, I wouldn't really, having 2-week holiday a year which is beautiful and amazing if that's what you want. But I always felt this pull to explore, to travel, to have as many experiences as possible. I believe that we're on this planet to experience, we're physical beings having we're beings having a physical experience on this earth. And I want to make the most of that. I want to learn through human connection and through things that are different from myself and things that push me out of my comfort zone. So, yeah, I'm so glad that I was part of a couple of cults for a period of time in my life.
They really widen your horizons and push you out of your comfort zone to live this way.
Exactly. And now here I live in Bali, and we have, women's circles, cacao ceremonies, shamanic breath work, so many different things. I could go to a tantric workshop tomorrow if I wanted, or a kundalini class. It's a beautiful place to experience, life.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And Ella, yeah, can you please tell our audience about how to connect with you on social media, what you offer with your teacher trainings and your lunar cycle experiences? Can you please let us know how more people can get involved?
Absolutely. So yeah, I love to share my life on Instagram. I should do more like personal stories. Sometimes it's just sharing my students' practice, but I'm Yoga with Ella and an underscore at the end of that. And so with my partner Marilyn, we have Zaz Yoga. And since the lockdowns and the world sort of becoming difficult to travel, we launched our 200 hours yoga teacher training online. And it's a fully supported and self-paced training. And it's a beautiful community. We've got so many graduates, so many people at various stages. We all connect every week. It's absolutely an amazing training, and I recommend that 100% if you're interested to explore a mindful movement practice and understand yourself and your body. And then maybe you will want to teach others, because that's naturally what happens when we experience this beautiful practice for ourselves. We naturally want to share the benefits that we're receiving. So it's always a beautiful progression of like, okay, I'm learning this for myself, and oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell everybody. So the online yoga teacher training with Zaz Yoga. And I also have, as you said, my lunar cycle yoga membership, which is it's a weekly class. And so we're almost finished with it was the new moon in Aries cycle, and the next one will be starting on the 11th of May with the new moon in Taurus. And that'll be live and on demand. So if you can't attend the live class, it's still going to be really amazing to join the replay and be a part of the community that we have. And that includes, I create a beautiful ebook, and we can do intention settings, oracle reading, and get really tuned in with the moon and the lunar cycles. And yeah, we have a few other like a chakra balancing course, which is a shorter one, like a week's sort of journey, and that's all with Zaz Yoga as well. If people are in Bali, I have some really nice yoga classes. So yeah, I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything at the moment.
There are multiple ways to tap into Ella's life and gain that wisdom and knowledge from you. Ella, before we go, I've got a couple of questions that people have asked.
Sure.
How do you put faith in yogic concepts that may sometimes sound unscientific / unproven? By Keval Shah.
I think it's important to sort of honor your intuition and what feels right with you, If a practice doesn't resonate with you, then you don't need to have it in your practice. But if you're a little bit confused, I would say find a teacher, do your research. Just because it doesn't come across automatically as very scientific, it doesn't mean that it's not going to have benefits to your body. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be a useful practice. And, generally, a lot of the time there is a lot of evidence, and I like to say that science is catching up with spirituality as they make all of these discoveries, like with quantum physics, and so come in with an open mind. I understand, like it's important to be able to practically understand. Okay, like, but what does this actually mean? Like, is this real? Like, how can I physically and tangibly relate to this?
And another question was just, does yoga help with weight loss? That was another question.
Yoga helps with tuning into your most the most vital version of you. But it's like, if you're healthy and fat, that's amazing. If you're you could be skinny and unhealthy, and that's not good. I think we have this unrealistic idea of like what beauty looks like. There's a really great lady on Instagram, and she's a fat yogi, and she's like, I own this. These are my rolls. This is my belly. I'm still healthy. I'm still beautiful. Like, enjoy contentment for where you're at. But if it's like, if you're tired and you're not getting the right nutrients in your body and you're not doing anything, then maybe it's time to look at, what you could bring into your lifestyle. What could you do to move your body? So I don't focus on weight loss specifically. I focus on increasing vitality, increasing energy, feeling good. And maybe if your body isn't at its optimal weight, it might start to lose weight as it becomes healthier. It might gain weight as it becomes healthier. There's no sort of like ideal of weight or anything. It's about being the best version of you, the most healthy, the most optimal.
I love that. It really helps you get into your most optimal version of you, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ella, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience over the years, the mental mindset that you've shared, and your approach to life and observing. I've gained a lot from it, so I'm sure the viewers would have definitely gained something. And I really wish you all the success with all your endeavors. It sounds fantastic. All these courses and classes that you offer, and you're sharing what's benefited you with the world,
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always such an honor, and even to just spend an hour in your glowing presence has been so worthwhile to me. I always remember you as such a beautiful, glowing goddess, and that clearly hasn't changed. So thank you so much for having me on this interview.
Oh, it was divine timing when you messaged me, and I'm like, this was meant to be.
Always divine timing. It's never not.
Yes. So thank you so much, and we'll catch up soon. Hopefully somewhere in the world with divine timing, it'll happen.
Yes, I have no doubt.
So everyone, please follow. Please follow Yoga with Ella, Zazi Yoga. Have a look on Ella's Instagram page to check out what she's offering if you'd like to get in tune with. I highly recommend the yoga teacher training. I've met both Ella and Marilyn, the founders of Yoga Teacher Training Bali, and I love, and it completely resonates with me, what they teach and how they interpret the yoga philosophy into a practical level in life. And yeah, I would stay tuned for those magical insights through through social media and the internet, and delve deeper into the journey. Like the Bhagavad Gita says, yoga is a journey from the self, through the self, to the self. So using your platform as a vessel to discover yourself. It's great that you guys provide the space, the knowledge, and to now online people can do it in their own time. There's no pressure to change or be somewhere in the world. You can be present where you are and still mentally evolve and grow and practice the yogic lifestyle. So I'm great to be able to share that on my page as well, that this beautiful, beautiful wisdom that you guys offer and share with the world through. Yeah. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye.